In the year 1844, the French author Alexandre Dumas completes one of his most famous novels, The Count of Monte Cristo. While much of this work is thought to be fiction, various elements within certainly do hold truth. Regardless, the work's fame has its own value despite its validity. The novel follows Edmond Dantes, the king of the cavern, in his youth as a merchant sailor turned captain in Marseille, France. A conspiracy brews around Edmond's late ship captain, who was a supporter of Napoleon Bonaparte, now exiled. Edmond is to be married to his love, Mercedes, but her own cousin, Fernand Mondego, also seeks her hand in marriage. To remove Edmond from the picture, Fernand conspires with two colleagues, Danglars and Villefort, to have Edmond framed as a traitor and Bonapartist himself. Thus, on Edmond's wedding day, he is torn from his lover and arrested, sentenced to life as a prisoner in Chateau d'If, an island fortress known as the most feared and notorious jail in France. He rots there in turmoil for the next 6 years, driven to the verge of suicide. Fortunately, he finds hope when another prisoner, the mad priest, Abbé Faria, digs an escape tunnel that intersects with Edmond's cell. He finds mentorship and camaraderie in Faria, who had also been falsely imprisoned. Over the following 8 years, Faria educates Edmond in both science and language. More importantly, Faria reveals that he was framed by those he calls the Three Wise Men, who rivaled him in searching for an enormous treasure hidden in Monte Cristo. Faria knows and imparts the location of the treasure onto Edmond before succumbing to death within the prison. While no prisoner has ever escaped the island, Dantes finally has the opportunity by taking Faria's place in a burial sack. Prison guards take the sack and toss it into the ocean, unaware that Dantes hides within, ready to cut himself out and swim to safety. Without further delay, Dantes hitches a ride from a smuggling ship and makes his way to the Isle of Monte Cristo. With the knowledge he gained from Faria, Dantes successfully unearths the island's glorious treasure, which he uses to purchase the island and the title of Count of Monte Cristo. This wealth is but a means to an end, for Dantes is driven by a lust for vengeance. He learns that his beloved Mercedes had married Fernand, and his conspirators have gained honorable titles in society. Thus, Dantes plans to take revenge upon those who wronged him. During this time, he encounters a beautiful woman, Heidi, an Albanian princess sold into slavery after her country's destruction. Dantes learns that Fernand had killed the woman's father, and so he buys her to save her from a life of servitude. She becomes his confidant in seeking revenge. Keeping her presence a secret, Dantes himself chooses to hide his identity in pursuit of his goal. Before targeting his accusers in France, Edmond Dantes sets his sights on avenging Abbé Faria, who he saw as a father figure. He locates the Three Wise Men who put his mentor in prison. The first, Father Angelo Braga, is invited to Edmond's home in October of 1837, despite Heidi's disapproval. He waits until his house servant, Concetta, announces Angelo's arrival. Dantes had Angelo visit on false pretenses of obtaining the treasure of Monte Cristo, and as the two converse over dinner, Dantes reveals how Faria had been a father to him. He poisons Angelo's food, but is shocked to discover it doesn't kill his target, despite consuming a lethal dose. Instead, Father Angelo utilizes combat techniques from the Assembly of the Eighth Sacrament to defend himself. Despite wielding a pistol, Dantes cannot so much as scratch Angelo. Left with only one more option, Dantes evacuates the building and has Concetta activate a trap, causing the mansion to explode with Angelo inside. To their surprise, Angelo emerges from the rubble, barely alive, yet unable to fight. With a finishing blow, Dantes strikes him down with one of his own black keys. Edmond Dantes moves to Rome for his next target, the church's cardinal. While he and Concetta plan to lure the cardinal away with money, their plans are stalled upon learning that one of his informants has been killed quite uniquely. More informants are killed, and whoever is committing the murders is doing so while leaving behind bloodless corpses. Dantes is certain the culprit is the other of the remaining wise men, and this is confirmed when another victim is discovered. Their gouged organs, spelling the name Tarantella. He considers if these killings are revenge for Angelo, or if this is just how the church normally operates. Regardless, he must act fast. Dantes orders Concetta to prepare yet another trap, this one disguised as a lavish house party. They rent the Villa Medici and invite Tarantella for the festivities. Awaiting the time of the party, ID once again pleads for Dantes to avoid the fight. She wants him to live, but Dantes must continue in order to erase his own sorrows. Tarantella arrives, quickly discovers the party was a farce, and explains to Dantes that Faria was a traitor of the church, someone who wanted to save all life. While this may appear to be the church's goal on the surface, the reality is far more grim. In response, Dantes accuses the church as a flock of heretics and bloodied murderers. He unleashes a trap that impales Tarantella with spears and binds him in chains built to restrain tigers. Tarantella effortlessly breaks free, only to be shot between the eyes by Dantes. While Tarantella hits the floor wounded, it is only a matter of time before he stands up again and aggressively removes the spears from his own body. To counterattack, he unleashes a white lightning that scalds Dantes. The shock isn't a killing blow. No, Tarantella needs Dantes alive for interrogation. The two continue to argue about the church's motives, until Dantes escapes by tossing his coat to block his enemy's vision and following up with a stab to the heart. Somehow, Tarantella isn't dying, instead employing more lightning Magecraft to restrain and question Dantes about the treasure. Dantes retorts that there is no treasure, revealing himself to be impervious to pain, torture, and damage. Tarantella retreats after vowing to show Dantes true pain by destroying someone dear to him. With his plan foiled, Dantes regrets not implementing explosives into the trap as Concetta had recommended. He hurries to the inn where he was to meet Concetta, only to discover he is too late. There, Tarantella has just finished sucking Concetta dry of all her blood. The truth is made clear. Tarantella is a vampire. More particularly, he is the current reincarnation of Michael Roa Valdemjong. Faria once knew the truth, but was unable to impart this knowledge onto Dantes. However, in its place, Faria gave him the treasure of darkness he had stolen from the church. In other words, the treasure of Monte Cristo, in addition to being a hoard of wealth, also has the power to remake a person. With newfound confidence, Dantes declares that only he represents God's will. To me belongeth vengeance. His body ignites with a black flame, a weapon he can use against his enemies. These flames are the Monte Cristo mythology, the king of the cavern, a literal embodiment of Dantes' life as an avenger. Its power is on par with those from the Age of Gods, tied to the treasure's 14 relics as a symbol of despair for those without God. Using this might, Dantes slams Roa through the inn's wall. The two fight, with Roa channeling techniques from his previous incarnations to seal Dantes within a barrier. Dantes formally calls for the flames to eat his soul and transform into black flames powerful enough to destroy the barrier. Now, when Dantes stabs Roa, the wounds do not heal. The two, doused in Dantes' flames, wait out the inferno to see who can endure longer. Roa brags he is infinite, only for Dantes to respond, despair. That is hell. I will not take pity upon you. Rot away. Soon, Dantes finds himself alone, accompanied only by Roa's ashes. The treasure, or rather Faria, had saved him. Lamenting, he prays that Concetta watch over his vengeance from beyond the grave, and makes his way to the cathedral. A single guard stands before him, demanding to know who he is. With a wicked laugh, Edmond Dantes announces, "The Count of Monte Cristo has come for the Cardinal." While we do not know what becomes of the cardinal, it is clear a vacancy in the church is open in his place. Dantes has avenged Faria, but this is only the beginning of his vengeful tale. Dantes fulfills his vengeance in Paris against Fernand, Danglars, and Villefort through deception, scheming, romance, politics, and even murder, making him remembered as the most famous avenger in the world. Miraculously, however, he does not kill all of them, instead managing to quell his madness with the help of ID, who is now his mistress. He throws away his revenge and sets out on a journey with the foreign princess at his side. Although Edmond Dantes had abandoned his dark nature before dying, his fame is tied to the image of a nemesis rather than a redeemed man. Thus, his legend is recorded into the Throne of Heroes, allowing him to be summoned in his vengeful prime. In the modern era, the Chaldea Security Organization struggles to save humanity from incineration. Their only master, Ritsuka Fujimaru, and their servant, Mashu Kyrielite, find themselves within a singularity in which Japan's Ogawa apartment complex is swarming with phantasmal beasts. Truthfully, Edmond Dantes is summoned by Ketia, the incineration's mastermind, and tasked with creating the singularity to begin with. While he fulfills that duty, Dantes also takes this as a chance to create an eternal hell by allowing the apartment complex to become infested with vengeful spirits who resent the world. He nearly succeeds in amalgamating the spirits into a massive ghost, but his plans are thwarted when Shiki Ryogi announces that all things have an end and cuts the ghost down with her mystic eyes of death perception. When Ritsuka's party asks Dantes for his name, he merely responds, "Attendre et espérer," wait and hope before vanishing. Left to speculate, Shiki gets the impression that the hateful servant may become a trustworthy ally, because those who are born from hatred speak of love, and those who are born from love speak of hatred. This is not the end of Edmond Dantes. Quite horrifically, Ritsuka Fujimaru's consciousness, their soul, is forcibly dragged into a version of the prison tower where Dantes was once condemned. There, Dantes appears before Ritsuka and instructs that Ritsuka must ascend the tower's 7 floors, facing off against the tower's own vengeful spirits within 7 days, or they will die. Dantes joins in the fighting, helping Ritsuka at each Hall of Judgment. In battle, Edmond Dantes relies upon 2 noble phantasms. The first is Enfer Chateau d'Yves, Tiger Burning Bright, a manifestation of Dantes' strong will for enduring France's most hellish prison. It allows him to escape abstract prisons, such as time and space. Moving at a speed so high, his multiple attacks appear to occur simultaneously. With a grand finale, he lets loose flames of grudge, materialized by mana, that engulf his foes. His second noble phantasm is his famous saying, "Attendre et espérer," wait and hope, which mimics his redemption. It allows him to bring allies back from the verge of death, with an added boon to their parameters. The man's hope that hides within despair breaks free to bless his loved ones. Dantes and Ritsuka encounter despairing heroic spirits of various sins on each floor that must be defeated to proceed, namely Phantom of the Opera, Fargus, Gilles de Rais, Caligula, Jeanne d'Arc, and Shiro Amakusa Tokisada. Between each floor, Ritsuka wakes up in Chaldea and has to convince Dr. Roman and Mashu about their experience. In the end, however, Ritsuka is forced to face the prison tower on their own. On the 7th and final floor, Ritsuka is forced to fight against Edmond Dantes himself. Dantes is defeated and explains that the tower prison is a trap set up by the King of Mages, and he is merely a pawn to condemn Ritsuka. Thus, he views his defeat as liberation. He curses the King of Mages as a fool for choosing him for this task, laughing maniacally. Once more, he declares, "Attendre et espérer," before fading away. Ritsuka is freed from the trap, waking in Chaldea once more, now knowing of the inherent goodness that remains in Dantes' heart. Moving forward, the young master may very well see Avenger again on a brighter note as they work together to thwart the demon gods. Ultimately, the servant who claimed to be completely enveloped in raging vengeance reveals a glimmer of hope for all humanity. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakiDiaKun, and most of all, smashing that notification bell as if it were your waifu. That way you'll never miss out on all of my anime content, lore videos, live streams, and Holy Waifu Wars polls. My vids are struggling to get featured, so that bell is absolutely critical. If you want to support me directly, check out my Patreon, or consider donating via Super Chat. And as always, celebrate your fandom.